We are live. It is the season finale of Renters Radio. This
Aw.
this is the last episode of the decade, people. Um, as we've been doing this for many years, clearly. So I'm your host, Lauren Pespiza, and look who decided to show up today.
I am back. Evan George, hello, hello. So you thought that season one was going to end with me dying, and then Ben was going to take over, but no. In the finale, I am back.
He made his triumphant return.
Yeah. Ben thought he could knock me off. Come on.
Right?
Just kidding, Ben. Love you. Did a great job.
Yeah, Ben's the man. I think Ben's in France right now, so good for him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
know.
deserved it. Good for him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Totally. So, but we're here in, I guess we can say it now, New Alliance East, the building that may or may not be in a market basket. And we're here for our last episode of Renters Radio of the year, of the decade. We have a lot to talk about tonight. We've had a bunch of things happen. We're going to start off with a pretty terrible event that happened to us last night.
Yeah, everyone has to brace themselves. So Lauren and I saw Cats last night. And, all right, what was your initial thoughts of it? And
So I roped Evan into seeing Cats with me. I don't know why he agreed, because I heard it was so terrible. I think it has an 18% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and it just looks super weird. And I kind of only want to see a movie if it's bad, like bad enough to be good. So we went, and I loved it.
yeah,
Absolutely loved it.
there's like 9 different things I'm disappointing about that evening. You liking it was one of the lists.
I was-
Because, see, I didn't like it for the same reasons that all the reviewers are saying they didn't like it. That's why I thought I was going to like it. Because they made it sound like it's this weird, like, cat fetish thing. It's, like, so bizarre and, like, cringeworthy to watch. You can't see it. So I'm like, oh, like, take the right supplements, get in the right mindset. That could be a fun
Right.
experience. But the movie itself, and I think this is the play's fault, it's just a bad play. The songs suck. They have nothing to do with the actual plot. There's no character development
there
for
is
any
no
of the
plot.
characters.
There's no plot.
Like
Let's be honest.
It has there's a singing competition. The winner gets another life. If anyone complains about spoilers, please. But they just sing about like their own names. Every single effing song is the character introducing himself,
Yeah.
except for one, which was the only good song. What was the one you were listening to today?
Oh, the Memory song? The
Yeah.
Jennifer Hudson song.
And so that song's actually about something and conveys like a motivation, or at least it's not just her saying her name over and over again. So anyway, like, the movie was more boring because of how bad the actual play is than it was anything about the cats.
I thought it was actually, so basically the first half hour to 45 minutes of the movie, I just kind of sat there laughing into my hand thinking, what the ever-living fuck am I watching right now? Because you had like Rumor Willis eating cockroaches that were dancing, and
Which were actual people.
yeah,
Like,
they're
that does make it weird, too.
anthropomorphic. It's maybe furries would enjoy it, but that was really crazy and cool. Plus the cats were like really sexy at first, and that was kind of alarming. And I kind of expected it to get like weirder as the movie went on, but it kind of like petered out.
Yeah,
The weirdness.
like once you got used to seeing it, like that was not the big like minus of the movie. Except for that we can't tell if we saw the updated version of it.
Yeah. So I think we saw the patched version because who was the cat? I'm trying to remember his name. The one with the cape. What's that actor's name? I have
magic
to look it
one?
up. Nope, not the magic one. I have to do it right now because I actually just found out something about this this guy. It was Jason Derulo. Jason Derulo was Rum Tum something or other. I guess that they had to CGI out his bulging package because they wear bodysuits to do that, to do it, and they actually had to make his package appear smaller. I don't know why they would do that. I think that would have been a much better move to just leave it in. I mean, we all saw
that would have made the movie better.
I would have loved it. Like, remember Labyrinth? Like, I love, everybody loves that. So that's why you go to ballets, right?
But all the reviews are about how like horrific it is to see. Like you get used to it pretty quick.
Yeah, it was really weird at first. Then you just kind of got used to it. And you know what? I actually thought the choreography was pretty good, and expressive, and I like that part. But I also watch it from sort of a dancer mentality. The songs are not that catchy. Taylor Swift's song was so disappointing. Like, she really deserved a better song. And it just I was only disappointed that it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but I actually had a really good time watching it. You know, I just went with the flow after a while.
I'm just so disappointed at the actual quality of the musical.
You should have heard it.
I thought I'm just like this is like a Broadway play.
Yeah, I don't think
Horrible.
that I don't know if the play is very good either, to be honest.
It can't be up those other songs. But the only thing that was distracting about the animation was it seemed like their hands and their feet kept going one way or the other. So at some
Yeah,
point they would have clearly visible human feet. Sometime the next time it would then be visible human feet, but like with the animation fur over it. And
right.
then the third time they'd be wearing sneakers, and it kept like changing throughout the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. You noticed that inconsistency a little more than I did. But there apparently that was like one of the big flaws with the movie, and they had to release a patch, which we probably saw the patched version.
Yeah, and it's
I
like,
really thought the cats were gonna have nipples because I thought I saw in the preview they had nipples. They didn't have nipples. Like, what are we here for?
do actual cats have nipples?
Cats have many nipples.
But they're just under the fur, right? So you can't really see it.
Yeah, I guess.
But then they could have had the nipples in this, and you just couldn't see it under the fur.
I guess that's true. Though
Yeah,
then
yeah,
again,
we take it
Rumor
back.
Willis unzipped her like cat suit and had like a human body underneath. Like, what?
Yeah, it had clothes on underneath.
Yeah,
It was weird.
yeah.
I think they figured out once they already made the film, they're like, oh, this isn't that good or funny. So like they let her do like some jokes.
That was yeah. Her part was one of my favorites because it was so weird.
It was the only time there was dialogue, and it wasn't just singing.
It was also super weird because she was like eating things that were alive and had people faces, but and like being really sexual about it. It was pretty fun. Uh,
But
but yeah, you should have heard when the lights went on. Evan just stood up. He's like, thank God it's over," and I'm like,
well, like,
"No."
especially because they keep teasing the ending, where like you think it's gonna end, and then like it zooms out and they like repeat the chorus that Judi Dench just said, and then it zooms right back in on Judi Dench's face, and she keeps making more lines.
Yeah, cats are not dogs.
That's when I thought I was gonna lose it.
That was,
But somebody sent it to me today. Like I guess it's based upon a book, and the book is about the different types of cats.
I don't understand how there was a book that this could
Well,
be
like
based on.
the book is like, oh, here's the train cat, and somebody read that and thought, I'm gonna do a 9-minute song about a train cat, and then just had different types of cats.
Yeah, but I just don't understand why that book exists because, like I said, we were actually going into it. We were going to do like a political analysis and socioeconomic analysis based on cats and like do a segment on it. But there was just nothing to work with. There was no plot.
You can only argue that it promotes meritocracy and that you have to perform, and only the people who perform the best of the shows will win. If you want me to really reach, but honestly,
Yeah,
that's giving the creator of that too much credit. The
yeah.
musical sucks. Don't go see it. Go see Book of Mormon. Go see Les Mis.
I don't know. If you're going to see a movie in theaters right now, I still actually say you should go see Cats. Make sure you eat your edibles first. Make sure you are the right level of intoxicated for it because it's a fun ride. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I like enjoyed it more than I expected, but I also see the criticism. It's definitely an objectively bad movie.
See, I
So,
wanted to leave the movie theater and then tweet out that Cast was better than The Irishman because I think The Irishman is way overhyped and not
yeah,
that good of a movie.
and really long.
But no, The Irishman is better than Cats. So if anyone was curious, The Irishman is still better than Cats, even though The Irishman is not that good of a movie.
Yeah, and you've never seen Rocky Horror either.
No,
And so I hopefully this doesn't turn you off from weird cult movies because I feel like this is going to become one of those. But
I know.
Rocky Horror is better. So
Oh God, I hope so.
yeah, in terms of musicals. So yeah, there's that. There's Cats. We did it. We
Never
survived.
again.
Never again.
You want to go to a? Speaking of Rocky Horror Show, I'm gonna go into a Rent a Horror Story.
I have a Renter Horror Story
Bam.
lined up right now.
Pivot
I'm
right
looking
there.
for. Yeah, good pivot.
See, I'm not rusty at all. You all thought I'd come back the first quarter, be a little shaky. I'm good.
Right on.
Playing better than Tom Brady did on Sunday. Am I right, people?
Oh God, why'd you go there? Brutal.
He was floating so many balls. Horrible.
Brutal. Okay. So let's see. This Renter's Horror Story came to me. Herb's diet over there.
Nah, Herb's pissed.
Oh God.
All right, Rent a Horror Story.
All right. All right. Hang on. Let me get this watch party started. Okay.
While Lauren does that, I could promote some of the gear. So I got this lovely orange bottle from Papa George, which can now
Yay, Papa
disguise the
George.
bottles of beer we're drinking. So if Sam Adams wants us to promote your beer anymore, you're going to have to start contributing to our Patreon. No more free advertising.
Okay, that started too. Oh yeah. Well, so nobody look at what I'm drinking, I guess.
No, yeah,
In
you got to
that
keep yours
case.
off screen.
Okay. Cool. All right. So this came to me today, like an hour or two ago. Let me just pull it up here from our friend Katie. We're not gonna name the landlord or the last name, but it sounds pretty alarming. Let's see, where do I start here? Oh, landlord horror story. Sure, what's up? Last week we almost had an electrical fire because my landlord is too cheap to hire anyone to do things right in our apartment. Relatable. Uh, he replaced the carpet himself and stapled it into the wiring for the heater. So when we turned the heat on, it began melting our carpets underneath. I could smell it, but didn't know where the smell was coming from. Then last week at 4 a.m., we heard a loud explosion that sounded like zoom and saw a giant flash of light. I was awake lying in bed because I don't sleep, and it was loud and bright enough to wake Eric up. We were like, what the fuck was that? So we got up to investigate. We found burn marks on the wall and ripped up the carpet to realize what had happened. Good thing the carpet was fire resistant, but underneath is all black where it melted. And so the landlord won't admit he did the carpet and stapled it into the electrical wire himself, but everyone in the building knows he never hires anyone to do maintenance and always does it himself. And they were breathing in melted carpet for a few days before the explosion, which can't be good for you. Um, and basically it sounds like he replaced it before they moved in, did it himself, stapled stuff to the carpet, and uh see, the electrical surge broke the heater, so he came over and replaced it and 10 feet of wiring himself, which I also don't believe is entirely legal. But we're afraid if we report him and the building is condemned while we're living in it, then we will have to rush to find a new place to live. Our lease is up in 6 months and we're just going to wait because we're not trying to frantically move in the middle of winter. Luckily, it was fixed fairly quickly, but seems like something breaks every couple of months, and when it does, the landlord fixes it himself in the cheapest way possible with very questionable methods and results. It sounds pretty dangerous to me. Um, would the building get condemned over that? I don't know.
Who knows? I
I'd say
mean,
don't pay your rent if your heat's broken.
um, it's funny because everyone who rents, like, you have problems with your apartment.
Yeah.
Like, for the last few weeks, our water heater wasn't working. My dishwasher still does not dry the dishes, and like there's some parts of me, like stuff like that, I can't fix. If like little things I just fix around the house. But then there's another part of me that thinks, oh no, like f this. I know my rights. I should like complain to the landlord. And then I instantly get another thought that says, yeah, but I'm worried like they'll raise the rent, and these people have had the same rent for 4 years. I don't want to mess with that.
Right.
It's weird, like living with those like simultaneous pressures.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. My heat's been like breaking on and off. It turns out we have to set it manually in my apartment, and hopefully they fix it, but we're just kind of like dealing with it right now. I had to kick Oh no, I had to like hit bang inside of my toilet tank the other day to make it work again because it wasn't filling. And it worked because I'm magic like that. I was pretty proud of myself, but renting in these kind of places usually is a do-it-yourself situation. But I hopefully there's no other carpet explosions in Katie's house for the rest of the lease because that sounds pretty terrible. And
I just started chuckling when she was describing the sound effects. She's like, it was an explosion and went zoom.
well, it was like, yeah, it's like an electric explosion.
Yeah,
like zoom.
I giggled and I thought, okay, there could have been a zoom, like
Yeah.
like a static through carpet. I'll give you that.
Yeah. And I
But
just can't imagine the smell of like burning carpet for days at a time.
no, that's horrible.
Yeah.
I just dropped in the chat. So if you go to mass.gov, look around, they give you all of like the renters' rights that you have just as renters, and you can, because Lauren made the comment, you can actually withhold a portion of your rent. So if the landlord's not living up to what's in the lease, because sometimes in the lease they say you're responsible for these repairs, we're responsible for this. So if it's something that the landlord's supposed to be responsible for, you can withhold your rent if you've sent him or her a letter about what the necessary repairs were, and then like you waited a sufficient amount of time.
I think heat you can actually start deducting after like 24 hours or something. It's if you document that the heat's been broken.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff around.
With heat is really important.
It kind of sounds like this landlord the problem is that he wants to fix it himself to save himself a penny, dude.
Yeah.
So like, how do you change that, dude?
Well, one is to have, because like what I was just citing is all these different like rights you're supposed to have. But even like Lauren and I, who like read up on this stuff, we do it. It's so hard to know how you actually enforce it. So like what I was just describing, you then also have to be able to assess, well, how much now should the apartment be worth because of these repairs,
Wow.
and you're allowed to deduct this. So even though they say you have these rights, in all practicality, unless you have a lawyer, which is why I think we always say go to City Life and they'll
Go to City
tell you how
Life.
to do it. It's so hard to enforce any of this stuff. And I mean, a little bit to Herb's point, one of the big things about why we shouldn't have rent control is because if you do have rent control, then the landlords won't fix up their properties. But we're all living right
They
now
don't anyway.
without rent control, and they still don't because
Yeah.
it is still an economic incentive of them to do the cheapest thing possible.
Yeah.
So until like the state like really starts going after landlords that are being negligible, and there's actually a clear method for renters to get some sort of restitution, there's nothing to be able to do unless you can find a good lawyer in City Life and fight them that way. But then we're all just kind of F together.
Yeah.
So, but that's why we at least need rent control, so they can't just keep jacking the price up on us without any of these things.
And we need a right to an attorney for all tenants.
Yep, just cause eviction for all circumstances. I guess Massachusetts last year passed it, so it's just cause eviction if your building is foreclosed on and you meet XYZ criteria. So it's not like a universal.
Right. They're trying to further that though.
Yes, they
There's
are.
a right to
Yep.
right to something coalition.
At some point, we'll have the great state rep Mike Connolly on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big friend of the show because himself and Nika Elgato from JP, she's a co-sponsor. They have like what's referred to as like the housing bill.
And that's going forward in January, right? That's going to the
Yes,
floor in January. January 14.
We're gonna definitely plug in more as we get closer to it because we want to pack it. And
Yeah.
they booked the big room that like you enter in from like the east wing. I don't know, but it's the room that they book when they're gonna have a hearing on a bill where they know a lot of people are gonna show up. So we need to make sure that a lot of people show up to make sure that we signal in an election year this is something we're watching. Even though we all recognize you have two great legislators, there's 160.
Yeah, but we still got to back them up.
Absolutely.
Mike's a big dude, but
Mike is a big dude.
Mike's a big dude, but we still got to help him, and we need this kind of bill to go forward. I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Well, we don't have the stats, but we refer to him as the largest socialist in America.
He might.
Physically.
Yeah,
he definitely is.
Everybody looks up to Mike.
There you go.
Even Charlie Baker.
But
I stole that joke from him, by the way. Shout out to Mike. So yeah,
guy.
there's that to look forward to. There's that Renters Horror Story, and it is the end of the decade, so we have some reminiscing to do.
See, I want to be nerdy so bad and be like, well, it's not actually the end of the decade.
Wait, what?
So, oh God, I do not believe in this. So this is literally just me being annoying right now. But because there was no year zero, if you listen to annoying people, a decade is from like 01 to 11 because there is no year zero. Again, these are the incels.
Okay.
I just like to just back the annoying opinion just to be annoying for no other reason.
Okay.
But we're going to call it a decade.
Well, you know what? That's fine because honestly, my top 10 list of the protests of the decade fits into that spectrum as well because I don't know what happened in 2010.
Yeah, I remember when we talked about what we want to do for the show. Like, we should do like a year in review, decade in review. It's like I can't we don't get done like 1 week's worth of news during this. Like, there's no way we would do an entire year.
Well, no, I just picked my favorite things.
You actually put in the effort and did a top 10. I could have never done that.
Why?
I have no concept of time right now.
Well, I just thought of all the protests I've been to in the past 10 years and put them in a list.
Yeah, but you've been at this game longer than I have.
Okay. Well, I wonder which ones you've been to. Anyway, do we want to do this? We doing the list now?
Yeah,
let's do a list. Let's do a list. So I'm actually doing this chronologically because I kind of chickened out and didn't want to choose my favorite and rank it in order because it's kind of hard to. And in fact, some of these protests were pretty terrible, but they were just a big deal. So obviously 2011, September 30, 2011, Occupy Boston happened. That was a lot of our introductions to protests. That was where I met a lot of people listening, in fact, as well, where tons of us camped out in Dewey Square for 3 months. This was, it was going on all over the world. There was Occupy Wall Street. Basically, this was where the phrase 99% and, the chance banks got bailed out, we got sold out, came through. I think it was called for by Adbusters, but the time was right immediately. It just took off. And we had a little city built. it was hectic. There were laughter, there was tears. And I'm not sure that it accomplished anything immediate in, the wake of it, like after, everyone got arrested and or December and everything got kind of disbanded. But it really set the stage for actually like a lot of like social movements in the future because people connected and met each other. So many people got activated. Um, you know, we got to see who supported us and who didn't. I don't know where you were, but I
Um,
know that we were there in Dewey Square.
So to finish that thought, because Occupy Wall Street kind of has like you can view it as like a dual history within the left, meaning some people view it as like a failure that didn't achieve its goals because of how it was horizontally structured, yada yada yada. I fall on the opposite side, that none of this stuff exists in a vacuum. Like
Right.
as you were just saying, like, that was probably the most organic just awakening of the left in the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, the war in Iraq protest and the battle in Seattle in like the late 90s. But besides that, like an organic movement around structural inequality that then gave us the language that we talk about today. That is, again, not in a vacuum. That was followed by Black Lives Matter, the Bernie Sanders campaign, and everything going
Yeah.
forward. So,
And it's like people, there was like the diehard campers there, people that lived there, people that were there every day. And then there was people that just showed up and gave talks, people that showed up and donated stuff, people that showed up and supported it. And that was really important too for all those connections to get made. And, when I do other activist things to this day and meet people, it's like, oh, I met you at Occupy. Like, I just see people around. It's like, I know you from Occupy. It's just like, it's good to see people still out there, and it's good that this happened and activated everyone. It definitely is in the top. It might be my number one because it was kind of like my first. But
so while you were doing that, I was living in New York City, where like the first like base camp was in Zuccotti Park. I was a grad school student at NYU, and they were hosting these talks about how do people feel about it. And I would just make fun of the Occupy Wall Street protest,
as you would.
which all my professors loved that I was doing that and like debating like the students because I didn't really have a socialist lens at that point. I was more just an angry liberal. And so I remember like getting interviewed for like the local NYU stuff because they just like loved me bashing these kids. But I was also working in a middle school, and we took our middle schoolers down there.
Okay.
And I was very fair to like have them like talk to the people to try to understand the point.
Okay.
But no, I fell on the side of making fun of the
All
people.
right. Well, this is the confession zone, I guess, here on Renters Radio.
Yep.
Sometimes you're on the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
I know that, if we want to get, now that I've had a beer, a little personal, I remember when the bulldozers came and everyone's tents got tossed in them and crushed like our dreams in front of our very eyes. And I sound facetious right now, but actually that was pretty hard because, we were really, really felt like there's this energy, there's this feeling where like you can accomplish something, you can do something. And I just wanted like these boomers to get it too. Like, and turns out they don't, the media completely disowned us, even though liberal media had been calling for people to get in the streets about stuff like for years and years because Bush was president. And now we finally did. And all they did is make fun of us. And then, eventually all of our tents, everything got crushed in bulldozers, and it hurt. Like, it hurt bad. And it left a lot of people reeling. And I think there was a lot of burnout after that, too. A lot of people stayed in the sort of smaller cells that had organized around that. I was involved with Anonymous at the time, so I was doing a lot of, like, more tech activism. But it was like a pretty cruel wake-up, too, to see that.
And
to experience that.
And I know like the I'll call it the militarism of like how they destroyed the camps is something that has maintained and echoed through a lot of different types of like counter protest movements that the police use.
Yeah.
And like they have it down to like you wait until X amount of days until like the media cycle has now focused on to something else.
Right. It was getting cold out. Menino at first, there was actually a ban on stopping us from being there because it was a public park. And like after a certain amount of days, they could just kind of come and do whatever they wanted. And I think there was some concern for people freezing to death. I mean, there was concern about crime and everything.
Well, and then they'll use stories like that of like, oh, we really need to get in there and clean this up.
Yeah, but they would also bring people there.
Yes.
To do crime. So, like,
So that was a tactic, like
Yeah.
especially like the media trying to interview the people who would like make them seem like the most
Yeah.
extreme or like degenerates that just need to be cleaned up and removed. Like
Yeah.
like you hear that language a lot around what happened with the protests.
Yeah.
But
There's
yeah,
always
it's
the drum
horrible.
circles too, but I kind of like drum circles.
Yeah, drum circles are fine.
Mhm.
All right.
So yeah, that was 2011, and then you know we had all these things happen in terms of you know police brutality and militarization of police. This is I mean, it's not like cops haven't been shooting black people forever, but this is when like a lot of major like cases started to come to the headlines, like Eric Garner being choked, the "I Can't Breathe" video, and the officer Pantaleo like not getting in any trouble for it. So the Black Lives Matter movement started to really kick up around like 2012, 2013, 14. And so one of the next, I think, consider biggest protests in Boston was the Eric Garner protest of 2014. There weren't as many arrests as Occupy, but basically they blocked the streets during a Christmas tree lighting in Boston. And actually at the time, um, it was fairly peaceful considering how later things went. There were some arrests. This was part of a movement that was happening all over the country. And Deval Patrick was like fairly sympathetic in the media. He was the governor at the time. I don't know how Charlie Baker would have responded. Probably not as
Yeah.
sympathetically.
I mean, that would have been interesting, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. But this was sort of you know, this was sort of when people started to really get mad about protesters blocking streets. Like, oh, they're always blocking the streets. But it gets attention, and it drew attention to like an unjust situation. And, you know, unfortunately, people still kept getting shot. But I think that the community of people organizing around like the Black Lives Matter and, you know, police brutality and stuff like that really started to connect and pick up and, you know, organize some interesting actions. Another one was the highway blockade in 2015. This group wasn't Black Lives Matter, but they were like supportive. They blocked Milton, I-93, and they brought concrete barrels and chained themselves to them in the middle of the highway in support of Black Lives Matter Boston. And I think there were 17 arrests for that one. And that's when you really started to hear people complain about blocking traffic. What do you think about that in terms of praxis?
So, so now we're going into like tactics.
Yeah.
And so the point of a protest is to be disruptive.
Yes.
And this is something that a lot of people who like, I'll say normies, and when I mean my normies is somebody who doesn't like make their political identity as part of their life. They don't seem to get, because we've in this country had for such a long time a protest. Like, no. Like you go Saturday at 10 a.m. in the park, you make a sign, you hear a speech, you sing a song, and then you all go home. That's not really protest. That is how we've been conditioned.
That's not civil disobedience.
No, like that has been like the romanticized, polished version of what they want us to think Martin Luther King did. So that's what you do. Like, yeah, you just made change. Good job, everyone. That's not what protests are. That's more of like a fun parade. And so you actually need to be disruptive, but who you target that towards and how well you market it, now you get into like a limbo, because the Extinction Rebellion, they've had some incredibly successful protests in London, doing large-scale demonstrations, blockades in the streets that have gotten a lot of attention and support. But at the same time, they've also done actions like 2 or 3 people hopped on a subway car, stopping it. So now you have all these working-class people who are trying to get to work. They're all getting pissed off and frustrated, and now they actually like started to attacking the protesters.
Right.
And so like you have to be very careful with how you do it. But it is a very good strategy when done well.
I definitely admire the people who are willing to chain themselves to concrete barrels. They actually had to use like a chainsaw to arrest them, or high-powered saws to like unchain them from the barrels, and I think that's pretty badass. That you know they were willing to go that distance. I think that blockades are can be better used for things like the Weymouth compressor.
Yes.
Where you're, you know, the only workers you're really pissing off are the people working for Enbridge, and everybody else agrees with you, and, you know, delay things that are happening. But I think that's probably the best case to use it, but I still support people doing it.
Yes, I
I
mean,
like it. I like to see it.
like I think on this show, on this platform, we can do like a nice like back and forth. What are the pros and cons? Is this
Yeah.
tactful? Meaning, does this action get you your objective, or does this action actually deter around your goal? We could have the space, but in most other spaces, I'm always just like, no, 100% disruption. I'm not going to say anything. Like we need to be encouraging these type of actions
And I
more than we're
absolutely
trying to get people not to.
I encourage, yeah, basically I encourage people getting in the streets,
Yeah.
hands down.
Oh, absolutely.
No need for apologies. I get it. I'm with you. I would like to block some traffic someday. It'd be fun. But actually, it's funny. I made this list and I did not like. I did not think about like, did this get results?
Well, so far, for everything you've said,
Yeah,
again, so like an issue like the Weymouth compressor,
yeah,
that is a very tangible. We don't want this one compression station to be built,
right.
and that is a very measurable goal.
I mean, a measurable goal is wanting cops to get indicted for shooting unarmed black civilians.
Yes, and that hasn't happened.
Yeah. So that, did it get, people definitely pay attention now, which is good. There's definitely more support, and the people have been activated to organize around it, which is really important. The next thing that happened, well, it's not the next thing, but the next thing that I liked was the Boston Public School student walkout to protest the budget cuts. And this was one of the first like straight up student led protests that
Yes.
we saw this decade. It was really inspiring. It was like 3,500 students walked out. I don't know if they shut down the schools at the time to let them walk out, but it was fairly encouraged by a lot of like people, and
What
it
year
got
was
a lot
that?
of attention. That was 2016.
Okay, so that was before I started like joining any political groups, but
Yeah.
I remember going to that protest, and I remember
Were you working for BPS?
yes, and then
Oh, cool.
but my kids were 2016. I think I was the dean of an elementary school, so
Okay.
I like the little ones. But I remember going to a talk afterwards with one of the high school students, and just trying to ask him like, how did you all organize around this? Because the fact that it was
Yeah.
like completely student led was I got national attention.
It's awesome and inspiring, and I like to see it. I like to see the kids getting out there. And yeah, that was one of the first time I really noticed student led stuff too. I mean, budget cuts still happened, right?
Yes. Oh, and actually, that was the round of budget cuts that I was working for a program called the Alliance for Inclusion and Prevention. And it was basically, it was like 20 seats, and like these were some of the most at-risk needs within BPS. Like you would have been expelled from other BPS schools to get to us, or you've had a condition or an event that basically has been like you haven't been to school for a few years, whatever. And so we were like a very kind of like high class type of operation, meaning it cost a lot to run it because we had
Right.
some severe needs.
Right.
And then I remember my boss, he's like, yeah, I'm going to a budget meeting. They're probably going to have us like expand because like we've been doing so well for a decade. He came back from the meeting and he's like, yeah, they're cutting the entire program.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah. So I remember, yeah, I lost, well, like we all lost our jobs so that year. And then I got the dean job the following.
Still, so success.
How many young kids are now being activated?
Exactly. And we can get into that in later on in the list as well.
Yeah.
So the next one was, this may have been the one where you started getting involved in stuff, was the free speech rally 2017. That was the first time where I went out with the sole intention to punch a Nazi, as did about 30 or 40,000 of us.
Yes.
There was 50 of them. And I considered that a great success because they look like idiots, and most of them got arrested for punching each other.
That was, and so for everyone's context to remember it, that what happened was Charlottesville.
Yes.
Which, like, when I say that phrase, I think that jogs in everyone's mind what happened. And now that same group planned another event like the week after Charlottesville.
Right. The Unite the Right.
Yeah. So you had this national tragedy of Charlottesville with the Jews do not replace us, had the hire, got killed, and then the following week they were supposed to also have that same event here. And so 40,000 people all turning up to counter protest it was like it killed the right. And like one of Richard Spencer's quotes from it was that Charlottesville was a mistake because of the massive backlash that Boston demonstrated.
Yeah. Yeah, that one felt pretty good. I remember going and, seeing a lot of friends from Occupy kind of running back and forth between sides and making fun of them, running back and, and these guys were, I mean, we've talked about them a lot. I think Rod's actually watching now. He made an entire documentary on the people that ran up in Boston, and they continue to just do their trolling stuff. But there was some pretty. I think Augustus Invictus was going to be there, or he was there.
I lose
vaguely
track.
remember there was a lot of like alt-right, like serious Nazi people, and
Yeah, a lot of them
they
ended
got
up
arrested for punching each other and shouting out breakfast cereals. Because
Nice.
that was like, and they'd say, I am a male chauvinist and I do not apologize for my creation of Western civilization or something. And really, it's just like, it looked like a really bad frat.
It's a bunch of guys who just can't download Tinder for some reason.
Yeah, right. Guys who cannot get laid. Yes, Invictus was at the May 2017 rally. Thank you. As well as a bunch of others. That whole thing was pretty dumb. But I really did love seeing it. Felt really good to have like an army of counter protesters on our side, and like we were awesome. We had ladies there. We had cool people.
Oh yeah.
You know, like,
And so you went to like where the
this was the Common.
So yeah, so you went to the Common first, I think, just listening to your story. I went to where the march started, and then I remember Tito. Like,
Oh, okay.
So because I was filming it also, and I just remember
Right.
yelling like, "Yeah, Tito!"
Yeah, as one does.
Yeah, as one does. when you
I
see
do the
Tito.
same thing every time I see Tito. You
Yeah.
know, it's basically instant reaction. So you were there, and in fact, you had a sign.
I did. Do you want to read my excerpt from what news BuzzFeed?
Yeah, so I was looking up like articles on this to refresh my memory, and lo and behold, it's Evan George, a 30-year-old Dorchester resident, carrying a sign that read, "Heather Heyer is Boston strong."
Okay, so I'll talk about that. Pass me a beer. So I don't.
I
think,
love it. I love
Okay.
it. I didn't even have a sign. I was there with my roommate and his dog, and I would just have like, you know, the dog kind of scared.
So I made this
Skip
massive
them,
sign. I had Heather Heyer was the purple letters, blue and yellow for the Boston thing, the Boston Strong. And then I had this massive 2x4. And then as I'm getting on the tee, somebody who could clearly tell I'm going to the march was just like, "Oh, buddy, like the cops are gonna take that from you." So I remember just having to like carry the
Yeah.
sign, and then I found a stick. But basically, I attribute. See, I don't want to say Heather's passing. I'm going to say Heather's life to what was actually my activation moment, because
Right.
I very, you know, clearly, as you can tell, I've been reading up about this stuff for a while, but I just would kind of do things solo and not join any groups. And I remember playing Overwatch in my room, like live streaming on my laptop what was happening and then like they broadcasted that somebody just got hit and run over. And I remember thinking like, oh wow, like I kind of feel like a piece of shit right now that I say I care about this stuff, but like
Right.
I'm in my room playing Overwatch. So then I started to be a little more active, went out, yada yada yada. I'm here talking to you. So
Nice.
Yeah.
So this was your Occupy.
basically, it
Yeah.
was in my activation moment.
Yeah. Well, it was a good one.
I think it was for a lot of people. Like once you start seeing 400
Yeah.
people carrying torches, screaming, "The Jews will not replace us."
yeah, and
if-
talking about how they're proud male chauvinists and
I mean,
breakfast
if
cereals.
you are not politically active right now, this is not me shaming you, but that for me was a moment of like, okay, clearly can't be on the sidelines right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I remember covering that a lot too with the Young Jerks, and it just being kind of mind-boggling that these people would show up, that these people just like existed in the
Yeah.
first place. Like, and you know, it actually took a lot of, you know, one of the best resources to like learn the history of this stuff is actually Rod Weber's documentary on Vimeo. The Oppressed Majority or something is what they called themselves. He made a really good background on like the history of the alt-right in Boston and how it like transpired and the other protests that they organized. We'll get into the later ones, but it's the same people. They just can't, you know, they were like unite against Marxism or resist Marxism, Boston Free Speech, changing their names. This is kind of one of the first times they really showed up in Boston, like, and had this huge response. And that was, you know, that was a pretty good day. I liked that
Oh, yeah,
protest.
that was a great day.
That was like they got arrested and we didn't.
I mean,
Everybody went and got chicken tendies. It was great.
I like that you kind of started to frame the conversation around like how do you measure wins. That was a win.
More of them got hurt than us, and that was cool.
That
Not the same for a lot of other protests.
Yeah, I
but-
mean that on a small level of it, if you want to just use bodies as that account, but the fact that then that entire like I don't know rise of the right, whatever they want to call
Yeah.
themselves, they had to cancel all of their other
yeah.
upcoming things. Like that's a massive. victory.
They look pretty stupid and they got pretty nervous about it. So that was a good one. That is probably in my. If I'm doing this chronologically, but that's probably in my top 5. I did it. That was a good protest, or counter protest. The next one was March for Our Lives in 2018, and that was like 80,000 people marching to like protest gun violence.
Yes.
That was huge.
And did that follow Parkland?
Yes, that
Okay.
followed Parkland. There was a bunch of school shootings going on, and this was another student-run or at least young people school affiliated run protests. It was mostly student run because I remember going and seeing a lot of kids,
Yes.
like a lot of kids, and there was people speaking. There was a huge march from like I think they started in Roxbury and they marched up to the Common once again, and there were speakers, and it was just a huge turnout. I remember like music and dancing, and also counter protesters.
So I didn't see any counter protesters.
I
This was another
found
time
the counter protesters
when I was like marching with the march itself.
Yeah, no, I go straight to the Common, meet
Yeah.
up at the bandstand, figure out what's going on. I usually actually just hit up my buddy Greg because he's always like tracking the counter protesters, and then we can go make fun of them and keep an eye on them. We actually were concerned they were bringing guns, so of course we went straight to that.
As one does.
As one does. So we found them. I remember one dude, I think he was like from some militia in New Hampshire, that just had like a "suck my dick" sign, just prominently. And he had like, this like military fatigues on, and I'm like, man, this guy has never gotten laid. And like, but he had this like,
And he is so angry about it.
he's so angry about it. And turns out I had a friend that knew him, and he actually maybe got fired from Comcast when he got called out. He works for Comcast up in New Hampshire. I forget his name though, but yeah. No, it was just like, it just was so apparent how out of touch and like awful these counter protesters, because they're the same alt-right people that were doing the free speech rally. These are the same kind of people. A lot of this actually same people. And, to bring a "suck my dick" sign to a march that is like led by children trying to like not get shot at school.
So
Like, who are you?
So for me, I have a lot of critiques of the internet and how I think it's changed, how like people like do normal conversation and like our normal expectations of one another and how we talk. But when I see things like that, that to me is somebody who you clearly are online for 12 hours a day and you're just memeing right now. Like you almost view this like you are on a message board and now you're gonna post a GIF
Yeah.
just to piss everyone off. You were so detached from any empathy or like relation that like you're actually experiencing something like visceral and real and like the natural world.
Yeah.
That for you, there's no longer a disconnect between the virtual life and your real life. You are memeing.
Like, what are you protesting?
It's exactly like
what?
and probably at some
You're
level.
like, no, I want kids to get shot. Like, that's kind of what it looks like. And it also looks like, like, oh, I just want to piss people off. And like, there's like kids with like little kids with their mothers there. And everyone's just like,
because again,
shame.
I use technology. So I'm not saying it's because of that, but it's somebody who like you have lost any connection to another person to the point that you think this is like a message board and like this is fun.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, dude, people were so pissed off. That was so funny.
You have your Pepe flags.
A lot of it is like
swastikas on
it's
them.
almost like a mental health issue. Like it has to be at some point. I don't know if it's recognized by the DSRM or whatever. But no, that person is just you've lost your connection to the natural world.
Yeah, and we joke about them not getting laid, but I
make that joke because I know it hurts them.
Yeah, but I also wouldn't want them to get laid.
Yeah, just be pleasant.
Actually, hypothetical question. If having sex with one of these Nazis stopped them from being a Nazi, is it morally okay?
I would say no.
Like,
well, one because
like, that worked.
I mean, it really doesn't work like that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not really how
Don't
it works.
sacrifice yourselves for that cause, ladies. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no.
It's not going to work. But it's I think that's something they advocate actually.
No, that's why.
Get laid.
If we just had sex robots, just go with the robot.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. There's a lot of people out there who don't get laid who don't turn into Nazis. So I think there's some deeper problem there.
That's true.
But yeah. So that was another one with I was there actually. I was very inspired by the huge mass of people. I think it was a cold day, but I was mostly watching the counter protesters because that's kind of.
It's your jam.
I I know like we know each other. Just like, dude, you suck. Like, there you are again. Oh, you're still out here, huh? I think this was the one that I almost got impaled at.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, there's like that Blue Wheel group, and they were kind of being like kettled out away from the Common at a certain point, and one of them like punched a cop and ran out of the circle, and he had like an American flag. He wasn't aiming at me, but he just kind of was like charging with it in like a spear or joust. And I had to do like a
Neo
Matrix, like a Matrix move to avoid it. And I was like, oh, I just almost got impaled. Okay, my lucky day.
Glad you're okay, but I would love to see like a third person's perspective of it,
because
like I'm sure it was just like the flag was 20 feet from you. And you're just like, whoa.
No, dude, we were in
Yo,
we
you
were
want
in,
to see me dodge that?
We were on like a small street, actually.
I know. Glad nothing happened.
Yeah.
I just find it funny if it was
I know.
completely something different.
Well, we'll see about the next time.
What year are we on right now?
We're on 2018. So the
Okay.
next one is much smaller, but much more close to my heart, even because I'm talking about the Save EMF protest, where EMF artists and Cambridge musicians protested a Harvard Square Make Music event to basically highlight the fact that we were all getting kicked out of our building. And developers were buying out our community art spaces and turning them into condos and office spaces, and everyone was upset. And how can we say Cambridge supports the arts while they're allowing this to happen? We actually did an entire episode on this last week with the two organizers of this event. We had Ben Simon and Sophia Bell. This was a big protest of Don Giovanni, but it was also like a really great turnout. In fact, I don't think anyone remembers anything about that, the event that they protested, besides the protest. Like, I've never been to Make Music Harvard Square besides when we were protesting. Remember we drew on each other?
Yeah.
We drew on each other.
Herb, do you remember that when we all drew on each other?
Yeah, I have a great photo of Herb with like Save EMF on his cheek. And it was pretty cool. It felt good. We had dance, we had like dancing on the common, and Mike Connolly and Quentin Zondervan spoke, as well as many others. Jarva played. And so that protest, is not as big or as many numbers. There were no arrests. It wasn't like a huge, but the action itself was like, I think, very meaningful because it got a lot of people together, and it got a lot of focus on this issue in Cambridge, and it's community building, really. But unfortunately, we don't have EMF. But so
We got a new alliance.
We got a new alliance though, and all of us are still here, holding it down, fighting for artists. And I would love to have like some kind of like Save EMF reunion rally somewhere. Let's go disrupt something.
I'm down.
I know. We can work on that. That was a good day. So now we're still on 2018. We are on we're on 2019, actually. This one was interesting because this is a corporate run protest. Well, worker run, because this was the Wayfair walkout.
Oh, okay.
Wayfair was selling bed furniture to like ICE detention facilities or something.
I know a lot about the behind the scenes of this because
Oh, yeah.
one of the lead organizers of this was a DSA member.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not going to dox her because I don't know how public it is. But basically what happened was this group of individuals, figured out very obscurely, just looking at like a random code of like who they were sending money to, that they were sending money to one of the concentration camps that run by ICE. And this person brought it to my friend's attention, and then they're all on Slack. And then she just dropped into Slack, oh, we just figured out that we have a contract with ICE. How does everyone feel about that? And then it just kind of spread throughout the company, and I guess I already said she's a fantastic organizer. She kind of knows how to handle this. She gets everyone together and says, yeah, like we should have a demand that Wayfair stops doing this. So they circle around a petition. That's like one of the first steps. So you get everyone to sign it for buy-in, and then in an entire group of you go to your boss. You say, we want to present to you with this petition. We want you to stop doing this action. Now HR starts freaking out because they don't know how to handle it. So they get everyone in a room together to try to address it. And I think like maybe the CEO spoke and was just like, like we share your values, but like this isn't really anything to do with us. It's just the different contracts. And, like, don't you want the kids to have beds?
Yeah, right. I remember.
That was a little like talking point they tried to use.
Yeah.
And again, luckily, my friend, like, she very talented leader. And then she just like, no, like this is our demand, like making sure that the group doesn't go back on it. Like, this is our demand. Are you going to meet this demand or not? Like, just yes or no, black and white.
Right.
Like, you don't let them obfuscate. You make them make a concrete decision. And they refused to do it. And then they said, okay. And the next day, or I think it was maybe 2 days later, they organized a walkout. She had no idea how many people were going to show up. It was like well over 1,000 people came to the park because it became a very visible display of people who are not comfortable with us running concentration camps on our southern border. And I know she spoke. Some other people spoke. And
did they stop selling beds to ICE?
I know. Now I'm trying to see who made it.
We did not research the results of these. It definitely got a lot of attention. And it's probably the only thing on my list here that's just like a company protest. And I would love to see more of that.
So I don't think they stopped. Or I think they questioned doing future orders.
Right.
And And I remember just one thing she was speaking to me about was how, like, HR, like, they would try to pressure her a little bit, and but she knows that they can't stop her from like organizing. Like, if you figure out that someone's trying to start a union, you can't kick them out because they're trying to start a union or anything like that. And so what they would say to her is, "Oh, well, you're in violation of company policy right now."
Right.
Which somebody who doesn't know, that makes them think, "Oh, like I could get fired." But she knows you can't get fired, and then she just brings it back to, "Oh, you're saying my job's like being threatened right now?" "Oh no, not of course not," because she knows what the law is.
Right.
So like,
right.
you always have to know what your rights are when you enter these situations. And I don't know, this might be a good time. DSA is a good place. We have a lot of good labor organizers who know this stuff. So if you were thinking about starting a union, or you want to know what your rights are as an employee,
Or if your company's doing something real shitty and you want to make
Yeah,
them think about it and get them to stop.
hit me up. I can connect you to the right people. They'll tell you what your rights are. They'll show you
Yeah.
like the steps you follow, and you can have a real impact.
That's right. So we did get a correction. Standing Rock was a company protest. The canary in the coal mine. It was a test to see if a private company could use a public police force to take over private citizens' property.
We didn't talk about Standing Rock.
Was it in Boston?
Yeah. Okay, never mind.
I mean, I would have, if this was a global protest movement, I would have chosen different ones, but no, this is Boston. Well, in Cambridge.
The
But
greater Boston area.
yeah, greater Boston area. Though shout out to Standing Rock, that was pretty amazing. And there's a lot of like amazing activists who've been involved with the anti-pipeline movement. We have ours here in Weymouth, but this is a Boston-based list. So
I can't believe that was.
well, there were
2019.
Standing Rock protests in Boston. Okay, Rod, I know there were Standing Rock protests in Boston.
Rod, you make your own list.
Yeah, you can make your own list. In fact, we can open up the phone lines in a minute if he wants to call in with his.
Wait, no, because that's going to cost us way too much
I know.
time. Not yet. No calls yet.
Rod needs to come on the
I'm
show.
vetoing the call.
We'll get you on the show.
All right, so that was Wayfair.
Yeah.
I feel like that was 2019. That feels like it was 4 years ago for me.
I know that feels really
That
long
feels
time ago.
such a
That
long
was this
time ago.
year. You
It's
know what else was
ridiculous.
this year?
What?
Straight Pride.
That I remember.
Oh God, Straight Pride. We were talking about how, like, it felt really triumphant when those same alt-right people showed up, and we showed up, and there was a lot more of us, and everybody won, and they looked stupid. This was different. These people made like a super happy, fun time, whatever. Same people made this like float and march through the streets, and they ended up stopping over near like a government center, and everything was kenneled weird, and there wasn't that many of them, and there was a lot more of us. And there were just too many cops.
And I took a picture of it, and there's at least 200 police officers in a row.
Yeah, and they were like wicked aggro. They were like driving motorcycles through us and like beating people up and pepper spraying everyone for no reason, with no orders to disperse, and no. Once again, another. That just kind of went to show like this was different. This was different than a lot of protests that I've been to in Boston.
Yeah, a lot of people weren't prepared for how. What the police response was going to be. And I know one of our, like, the older members of DSA, but, like, he's kind of like just joining now. And so he met up with us at the protest, and I spoke to him afterwards, and he's like, kind of bug-eyed, and he's just like, that was the first time I've ever seen or understood that the police viewed us as the enemy. And, like, this incredibly intense, like, the police aren't watching these fascists go throughout the street yelling all these homophobic, just horrible remarks. What they're watching is us to like harm us.
Yeah.
And for like to see him kind of get that connection was like pretty powerful to experience. But yeah, I've never seen that many police in one setting. I know Boston alone, I think it was like $700,000 in overtime payments.
It wasn't just the Boston police. It
But,
was like Quincy,
yes.
Somerville, Salem even.
It was basically like an open call for
Yeah.
every police force. Oh, hey, do you want to make quick $500 an hour? You get to pretend you're in Call of Duty for like a bunch of people who all we were really doing was just trying to yell over them.
Yeah.
Like that's what the strategy was.
Yeah, people were peaceful. I mean, people were saying there was like bottles thrown, whatever. I didn't see anything. I really saw the violence being started by cops. It was like I wasn't even really trying to, in my situation, I didn't mean to put myself in that kind of harm's way, actually. though it was good to witness it because like it just really, after the free speech rally, we all walk away, high five, like these guys look like idiots, they all got arrested, we did it. This was the opposite. They did not get hurt as bad as us. And that sucked.
Correct.
If you look at this in like a battle way, which at the end of the day, when you go through that like gut feeling about it, when you're there, you I always get very like red-blooded about it. I'm like, I wish that we'd have hurt a few more of them, like if we we're all going to get hurt anyway for no reason.
So I view this as a perception battle.
Yeah.
And I look at how it's covered.
Right.
So like
it did end up, the coverage at first was not good.
The media did they did a horrible job covering it. So, like, I'm just stipulating that. They made it seem like these right-wingers were more, like, goofy than serious. Which
was all that was their game.
Yes. And I remember, like, this is great video of, like, 3 of the organizers of it, the super happy, fun, fascist, whatever thing. They're being interviewed by reporters, and there's one reporter in this really, like a Boston accent. He's like, so what do you say to the people of Boston that they have to waste taxpayer dollars because you 3 guys can't get laid?
Right. Basically, yeah. Yeah. And, that's like the other argument. I mean, I feel like we should always show up when they do things. I don't think that ignoring them works. I know there are people who disagree. But I think it's important to make sure that they know that like they're not welcome here. And to come out en masse. They just didn't need the cops to come out in that much force and be that violent. That was really the worst like bad guys in that situation were the cops, I felt like that day.
And I know there was one specific officer and
right. Dan Alicki, the pepper spray cop. Boston's own pepper spray cop.
Because as part of the police union, they don't have to keep their body cameras on during anything overtime. So according to the police, even though they have literal spotters on the roof filming this while it's going on, anyone who's gone to a protest knows this. You can just point up and look at them.
Right.
So it is being recorded. They just don't release it.
Right.
So there is no footage from the police perspective, but plenty of people on our side who know it's good to have cameras there for our own protection. There was just like this one police officer who was involved in like 6 different pepper spray events, one of which was like a senior citizen, this older woman who ended up getting it like directly in the face.
I saw complete carnage when people got pepper spray. Honestly, I saw like reporters with cameras like coughing, hacking, like like it was absolutely a mess. It was. I was like. A lot of us were pretty traumatized seeing it. Like we were really worried. We were really afraid. We thought that, like I remember Rod getting like I thought he got stepped on, got arrested. I looked behind me. I don't know where he is. Like where'd my friends go? I finally found Greg. Was like we were hiding and kept running, and it was nuts. And then he had done the documentary, The Oppressed Majority, and then that covered the same groups that were putting on these protests. And then now his YouTube channel actually got censored after that as hate speech, which is really frustrating on top of it, because that does not help. Yeah, we saw the guys from Unicorn Riot get pepper sprayed. And, we're like, me and Sophia are like running back and forth, dragging people around the corner to safety, dragging people's stuff. I was picking stuff up off the ground. I don't know who it belonged to, just giving it to the medics if it was like medical equipment. Like it was just a mess, and it was like really chaotic. And there's also people just walking by with like baby strollers, just trying to like go shopping or something, and clouds of like pepper spray like flowing by. Like it was super dangerous for everybody.
Yes. And obviously there's been I think like one statement of like, oh yeah, the police are doing an internal investigation to see if there was any overuse of force.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get too specific right now, but there wasn't a single Boston politician that did a good job, like even like bringing up. Was there a lot of police violence at this? It was something that Rachel Rollins, because it did get a lot of publicity, she quickly dismissed the charges of the people, which is good. She did that.
Except some of them, but
yeah. Well, in that circumstance, didn't she do it for everyone for that one event? But there
didn't do it for Rod.
Okay.
He got banned from Boston for a while. Had to go contest that. Okay. That was like this other crazy side thing that happened. It didn't make any sense. But that was actually that judge. It wasn't Rachel Rollins. It was that judge that actually... Well, she
can still dismiss the charges.
No, she couldn't. That was the thing. The judge like went against it and then actually arrested a lawyer in the courtroom.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that? It was
crazy
after
God.
that.
Yes, I do remember
Yeah.
Yeah, that judge who I think killed the guy.
Yeah.
Allegedly,
I think he did, like,
you can't get us in trouble. No.
Judge Sinat, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I think he shot
somebody. He shot somebody, you're right.
Yes.
Yeah, like how are these people judged?
Decades ago, allegedly. You can't sue us if I say allegedly. I will look into it.
Yeah.
No, pretty sure he killed the guy before. But anyway,
Yeah.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And then I guess they went to the Supreme Court, and then like it wasn't alleged. He did shoot a guy. He shot a guy. You know, we yelled at Nazis and got beat up, and this judge sitting there shot a guy. Like, it's bizarre.
Beautiful system.
Yeah, the system works clearly. But I guess it went up to the Supreme Court, and then some charges got overturned after that. But it just took a lot of fighting, and it was a bunch of BS. So that was like, honestly, it's in the top 10 list, not because it was a great protest. It was actually a shit show, but it was pretty eventful, and
yeah.
You know, I remember it pretty well, pretty fresh in my memory. And the last one, last but not least, before the bonus one, is the climate strike in 2019. This is another student-led one against the environment. I think Greta Thunberg kind of started this whole wave of like people caring. Did I say her name right?
So I listen to Democracy Now! Every day. Amy Goodman, she would call it. Originally, it was Greta Thunberg.
Greta Thunberg.
For like 2 years, but then I think everyone got corrected on it, and now whenever she mentions her, she says Greta Thunberg.
Okay.
Well, that's what it sounds like.
Okay. Well.
So I trust Amy Goodman with my life. So, but I'm gonna keep saying Greta Thunberg.
Greta Thunberg. There we go. Well, I mean, it's not like she was like there in Boston at this protest, but this was like 7,000 people coming out in this big climate strike, filling up. I don't know where'd they go this time. I lost my info. I lost my link.
It was right in downtown.
It was you walked by it,
and,
right?
There were over 20 arrests, and I remember the Boston police tried to get the reporters to leave so they wouldn't film them arresting kids.
20 arrested kids, because it was a lot of kids.
Yes. And
I thought it was great. I thought it looked pretty good. I was like happy for these kids because I think they were getting their message out.
No, it was. And again, for people who aren't like kind of familiar with this, what ends up happening if you hear, oh, there were 20 arrests of children at this protest, it's not because the kids were like being wild or being aggressive towards the police, so then they had to arrest them. What ends up happening is at these events, people declare it is my intention to break the law.
Right.
And you have police liaisons, and the police liaisons communicate that to the police and saying, listen, these people over here are here with the intention to get arrested.
Right.
Because, and now it's kind of like up to that police officer. So how are you going to handle this? Because we are right now telling you we are not going to listen to your authority. We are not going to respect the private property of this building that is telling us to leave. We are going to make a statement. We are coming with the intention of being arrested.
Right.
And you do that to keep people safe.
Yeah.
And you make sure that, so now the police officer knows, so now it's not somebody going wild, it's now, okay, so now the police officers can decide, are you going to run and tackle these kids?
It's like Jane Fonda every Friday.
Yeah, basically.
It's like Jane Fonda Fridays. I think she's a climate striker too.
She gets arrested.
Yeah, she gets arrested every Friday. It's like, and she gets arrested with famous people, like different, it's like she has guests to get arrested with every Friday. But that's not in Boston, that's in DC, but it's still pretty cool. So yeah, climate strike's great. I love to see more of this action from young people. And hope that they can keep doing it safely, and that, you know, climate change is such a big issue. Like, I don't even know how to tackle that one, to be honest. That's like outside of the scope of the show.
Yes.
But I support everyone doing something about it. Like,
it's something I like talking about, and by like, it's just like because of how it's something called like a meta concept that it's hard for any of us to actually process what it means to have 100-foot sea level rise already baked into the system.
Right.
Over a few centuries. Like, what does that actually tangibly mean? That is too meta of an idea. For the purpose of this show, micro Boston politics, we got that.
Yeah. Let's keep it local. I've already, geopolitical effects are weird.
I mean,
I don't know.
Go look at the flood maps of Boston.
Yeah. Climate change is going to hit us pretty rough, so... it's important that people are doing something about it. It's important that young people keep just getting in the streets for any reason whatsoever.
I already have the idea. I'm going to create a scuba diving industry that goes through all the underwater buildings as like a
salvaging.
It's kind of like tourism. So I'm getting ahead of the game. That's TM. It's copyrighted. It's going to be scuba diving through all the buildings in the Seaport District. None of them followed any of the climate recommendations. And we're going to just go through the lobbies underwater. Stupid idiots.
I just gotta
Um,
buy a house somewhere. It's gonna be beachfront property.
Yeah,
Or sell it as beachfront property or something.
it's
I
gonna
don't know.
measure it at a certain distance.
I don't like swimming that much, so I
Just be
don't think
like,
I could do
yep,
scuba
3
diving.
generations, beachfront, right
Yeah,
there,
Boxborough.
with that nice
Who knows?
acidic
Yeah,
ocean water.
it's gonna be disgusting. It's gonna be like Revere Beach everywhere.
Revere.
It's my favorite
I will
beach.
not swim in Revere.
I love Revere Beach.
Was that the last one?
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay, so there is another. This is not a singular event or even a protest, but I do want to shout out the Freedom Rally because one of the biggest wins we did have this decade. I know there's a lot of problems with how it's been enacted and issues with it. Is that we did get legal cannabis. We got medical cannabis and then we got recreational cannabis, and that was huge. What? Say it.
Our producer's laughing. He's coming to the mic.
So what happened with the Freedom Rally?
I know.
Like, seriously?
I don't want to get into it.
Oh my god, dude! Like
Totally sucks now.
I could like yeah. Okay.
I know.
All
I
right,
know.
all
Freedom
right.
Rally sucks now.
That was a
No,
great.
I mean,
I don't know anything about this, by the way.
how is it that they could afford Method Man and Redman one year, dude, and then like the next couple of years they go down to 1 day fucking. Anyways, whatever.
Yeah, no, you're right. The Freedom Rally was glorious in its prime. I enjoyed going to it.
Was this like the 420 thing at the Common?
no,
every year?
yes, every year, but
Oh,
in like
man, it was
September.
on 420. Yeah,
It wasn't on 420.
It was on 420.
It was during
Oh,
September.
It was like September. Yeah.
Every year for 20 years they've been doing it.
Yeah.
And in 2016 we finally got weed legal. And I give Freedom Rally and Hemp Fest, as it was called, and Mass Candy organizer a lot of credit for just continuing to be activists, continuing to push that forward because we did win in the end. Because when we fight, we win.
Ah,
There you go. That's the city life motto.
Yeah, exactly.
it's
So-
an axe.
You know, it's not
Get
one
more
singular
axe.
event. What? It's not a singular event, but we did have a win there in this decade, and it was always one of my favorite big events on the Common. So, except recently, it kind of sucks, but it happens. Damage has been done.
I can't wait to ask all these questions off air because you two definitely. Herb's dying laughing. He's not on camera, everyone. So I can't wait to figure out what happened at this thing. I didn't know there was.
You've never what?
I'm not cool. I don't go
It's
to
not
the
that
weed
cool.
rallies.
It's not
Oh, it
cool
was
even.
cool. It was cool.
It was cool, I guess. It was. You couldn't really avoid it.
I don't go
You
to the.
could smell it for miles.
I don't go to the Common that often.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been going there since high school for the Freedom Rally. I loved it. All right, actually, we need to take a break.
All right. Yeah, we actually started relatively on time today. So,
All right, we'll be back.
yep, we're gonna take a break. Stay on the line.
It's gonna
Go to the
go. It's all
bathroom.
gonna go uphill from here, guys. Don't worry.
You're speaking first, right?
No, he has a video.
Oh, okay.
Say that I'm embarrassed to be an elected official. I'm embarrassed because what is clear to me is that we do not have the resources in Boston or the other cities across this country, based on my discussion with other elected officials, to meet the basic needs of the people of our cities or of our country. It's not that we don't have the resources in this country, but it's that the resources have been seized essentially by the corporations of this country, and particularly the military-industrial complex. I also don't believe that the people who are elected in Washington have the will to return the people, this country's resources to the people. I believe, as Dr. King said in 1968, it's time for us to go to Washington, D.C., and to not leave Washington, D.C. until the elected leaders understand this is our country, not the country of the corporations. The world that we see here in this country and across the globe is not the world that should be. We can create another world, but we have to seize control of our government. Thank you.
Part of believing that another world is possible.
We're back. That was recently deceased former city councilor Chuck Turner. Sadly, he passed this year on Christmas Day. He was a city councilor for, I believe, over 10 years, and a fighting spirit that activated a lot of people in his community. And we want to talk a little bit about that now. That was actually his speech at the DNC in Boston in like 2004.
So first, just to highlight that, and like just listening to his rhetoric and how he was just speaking, that was 2004.
Yeah.
What he was just stating is basically what you would hear Bernie Sanders at AOC, and I'm definitely going to bring back to this a little bit later about kind of like how ahead of his time he was in terms of like what he was speaking and advocating. Like that speech that he just gave then is something that just became mainstream now, and that was 2004.
Right.
And
Yeah, I guess that's true.
and Lauren and I talked about, because we definitely wanted to mention Chuck Turner because he was such an influential figure, especially for left politics in Boston. But he's also a figure that, I guess, at least speaking for me personally, I think maybe I shook his hand once. I think I maybe saw him at a few events. As you know, I'm kind of just like beginning my own activism. And so he wasn't somebody who I really had a personal connection with. And
Right.
so, like, how do you cover someone that, and we know his history, we can maybe talk a little bit about it,
Yeah.
but I know people that we both know who have like very directly been inspired by him, consider him
Worked
as a
with them.
mentor.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask this friend of mine, so I'm not going to say his name, but he's a very he's a young progressive activist from Roxbury, and so he posted just very quickly, kind of from his own words, I can't believe our freedom fighter Chuck Turner has passed. He fought for our community until the end and never gave up hope, even when they tried to put him away. He just came back swinging, proud to call him a mentor and a friend. Truly going to miss this man. Rest in power. And like the legacy that he had on a lot of the activists in Boston, like cannot be understated.
Absolutely not. I mean, he was a he was a community organizer and activist for 50 years at least. 50 years ago, one of the things that struck me, because it was a fight that didn't just affect Roxbury and Dorchester and south of Boston. It affected Cambridge. It affected Somerville. Was the fight against all the highways and the inner belt and the highways that were going to completely displace people. They were trying to put up. I believe it was during the Vietnam War. Most of the time they put up highways is when there's war. That's actually why they were invented. And really led the charge for like Operation Stop and a bunch of movements that helped stop the inner belt and a few other freeways from being built completely through poor communities, completely displacing people and bringing communities together, not just Roxbury, but also Cambridge and Somerville and, other areas that it was going to hit, JP, a few others. And, that kind of fighting the literal bulldozing of, people's homes, and then later on becoming a huge affordable housing activist who just like told it like it is when it comes to, the fact that people are being displaced out of all kinds of communities. And he inspired a lot of friends of ours as well. I've been seeing a lot of posts. I also didn't know him personally. Just I guess an oversight. I don't know. Never shook his hand, never met him, like you said, but it's really affected a lot of people that I respect and admire and have also worked with and supported. So I just want to take a minute to kind of honor that legacy and passing. And, there were a lot of, well, what annoyed me was the fact that, his record is somewhat tarnished due to being, some bribery thing that a lot of people don't believe was even intentional or real. What was it, like a liquor license thing where he became, got convicted and then kicked off the city council, which was later overturned because that was illegal. And it really sucks that all that kind of like tarnishes the legacy of somebody who did so much work for the people.
And I'm trying to think of how much, because like as you were saying, so like, the actual charges was, and this is a person who for decades was paying out of his own money to fund projects to do community development, to have an office actually in Roxbury that like people could go to. And so this is a person who put up hundreds of thousands of dollars of his own and his family's finances to do this. And what ended up happening was the FBI was conducting an investigation on somebody else and just happened to rope him in.
Right.
And there was a video of him speaking to somebody where there was no clear evidence of what transpired. And then they said that he accepted a $1,000 bribe, which even if the man did, and like I'm hesitant to even talk about it because it might tarnish his legacy in the eyes of people who don't know him, but for the eyes of people that do know him, it doesn't.
Right.
And so
which is what we've been seeing a lot of, but it just, I guess it's upsetting that always has to come up.
For what the FBI said was a $1,000 bribe, which again, even if he did accept it, this is money that he would have then just used within his community anyway to fund the
Right.
things that he was doing.
Right.
And so when you just get to label somebody as accepting a bribe, what you think of is like the state police who make $200,000 fudge their overtime payments so they can make another 30.
Yeah.
They're not plugging a community center in their area. Like they're
Right.
doing it so I don't know, they can go buy a second yacht for their third divorced wife. Or whatever. And something else about how ahead of the time he was back to that 2004 speech.
Yeah.
Was he was also one of the very few politicians speaking against the war in Iraq. And that's something that doesn't really get covered. Like it's kind of out of our consciousness a little bit. Might just
No, that's just you.
might just, yeah. Well, I was gonna say, present company excluded, was how silenced any opposition to the Iraq War was. And so, if you hear about, especially a person of color speaking against American foreign policy in 2004, and then they just happen to get roped in by the FBI into an investigation of somebody else, yeah, that's a little suspect, and the
Yeah.
burden is more on them. But again, this will it doesn't take away from what he did. Like as we were just saying, in the 80s, he stopped against that major highway expansion, which, as we discussed in a previous episode.
He brought communities together to stop it. It wasn't just stopping it in Roxbury. It was stopping it in Cambridge. It was
Yes.
stopping it in Somerville.
And
It was stopping it in like places that, I'm more familiar with, for instance, and I appreciate that.
And something that I think I brought up on another episode is like how highways were used as a tool of gentrification
Yeah.
to like specifically carve and cut out the white and the black areas, and the fact that because of what he did, and Boston absolutely still has racial segregation, but because of like what he did, he stopped what would have been the much larger boundaries for us to face. So it really
Right.
can't be underplayed how much of an impact that has, and especially as I first mentioned, how ahead of the time he was. Like the Globe just points out, like he was an unorthodox figure who was an activist while in office, and that is something that,
I liked him.
And,
I was watching a lot of videos. I like the guy.
yeah, and again, that's something that like AOC right now gets a lot of praise and attention for. Is like it's using the office in a different way,
Right.
because we are so used to people just you become a politician, and now maybe you try to get a good amendment in here and there for legislation. He was somebody who used the office as a tool for organizing, and you finally get to see that coming back now with kind of the rise of the left. But like figures like Chuck. Figures like, I'll say Bernie Sanders, people who kept this flame alive for decades throughout the war in Vietnam, throughout the 80s, with the Reagan and Thatcher era, throughout the Clinton bullshit in the 90s, throughout the war in Iraq, and now to inspire that next generation, it really can't be undersold. And so, like you hate to mention the minor stuff that.
Yeah, but that's what's in the
Yeah,
headlines. Like literally,
because
it sucks. But
because they want you to hold like what's called floating negatives, is like,
Right.
oh, like maybe he did good things, but he has this really bad thing.
what do you call that? Actually, I'm actually curious. Floating negatives.
Yeah, it's a way of like getting in people's heads to kind of create like I can't say what he did was good because there's like another equally weighted bad thing, which like by any knowledge of what his career was.
It doesn't seem like that was an equally bad thing at all compared to the
No.
good things this person did. But that is a tool also to
Yeah,
diminish something.
that's a tool that especially like a liberal media that is trying to what looks like balance, what in reality is to kind of obfuscate what he did because they can't champion it because a lot of the policies that he was championing they were against.
right.
And you can't say like, oh, we've been on the wrong side of this for 50 years. This person was on the right side. Let's just
Why
mention
can't
this
you?
one thing because it doesn't serve their interest to do that.
No, I know, but I just wish that people would just do that instead.
Yeah, but
That would be nice.
he was definitely a great figure, and so we wanted to spend some time talking about it.
Yeah, so condolences to his family and everyone who knew him, and
absolutely.
I hope that his legacy lives on, and people continue to lead the charge in city council. I have faith they will.
I really hope some of the new council members kind of follow his lead, which
Yeah.
is using the office as a tool for organizing. And this is not me saying he's equal footing to Chuck. I know that was a slogan of Jeevan's, was I want to be an elected official, not to stop my organizing, but to be a better organizer.
Right.
And again, it was people like I don't know how Chuck identified politically, or if he would
Actually,
use...
Green Rainbow.
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
part of the Rainbow Coalition
Yeah.
with Jesse Jackson. But you know, like keeping that flame alive through what was decades of just getting owned. Like,
Yeah.
you really can't minimize, like, and just go on social media and see the amount of like left activists in Boston
Yeah.
who attribute him to kind of like their own organizing, their
Right.
own focus. So
Right. We all have different inspirations, but it seems like this man left a huge mark on Boston and on the future of like the left in Boston to come. So, you know, rest in peace, Chuck Turner. And I hope that his family's doing well, and that, you know, people continue to carry that torch.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. In the spirit of Chuck, and actually that clip you picked was perfect because what he kept mentioning was we don't have the resources. So now pivoting,
So we're
you want
pivoting.
to talk about resources? Let's talk about the MBTA,
Ooh.
and I want you all to remember that word specifically, resources.
Resources.
So this technically is not a sexy tax segment. We've talked about the gas tax and congestion pricing, and there was so many things in the last 2 weeks. And the more they
With
talk about
MBTA.
it, I'll keep saying it. But what this is going to focus on is the general manager of the MBTA, because we've heard for the last few weeks, everyone knows MBTA is in shambles and needs more money. And this is the universal consensus. Like the Boston Business Council, they say, yeah, it needs about a $13 billion investment. Charlie Baker is saying, yeah, it needs at least another $9 billion. Some groups are saying, no, this needs about another 40 to 50 billion spread out over a few decades, obviously, for massive improvements. So this isn't even really that much of a contentious issue. However, there is just this side of the media that has to say, oh, you know what? They don't need more money. They just need to manage themselves better.
Ugh.
And this is what you've been seeing in the Globe. Like sometimes they'll have an article
That's
about
so
it.
dangerous.
And there was another MBT article for the Globe where it took the last word of the 14th paragraph to mention, and they need more money. Before that, they mentioned maybe they should have fewer meetings. And just stuff like that. And Charlie Baker's been getting hit left and right the last 2 weeks, saying like, oh, Charlie can't fix the culture of the MBTA. Mr. Fix-It's failing to fix the culture. And that is all a distraction for anyone who's saying, no, we shouldn't give them more money. They just need to manage themselves better. And we've played some clips about it. I've talked about this before. But then I got to hear the actual general manager talk about it. So this is like the person he is put in charge of the MBTA. So now let's listen. Where does he fall in this? Does the MBTA need more resources, or do they need to be managed better?
General Manager Steve Poftak, he told us safety's always been a priority at the MBTA.
The T has always said that safety is our top priority. I think what this report tells us is some of the we are not giving enough resources to safety, and that some of the processes and procedures are not right, and we need to get oriented around that. The capital acceleration work, much of which is focused on modernizing the system, does provide an important contribution to safety, but it also stretches some of our resources really thin, and we need to do a better job of making sure we have enough resources to do the preventive maintenance, kind of the emergency maintenance work, and the capital appreciation, and we're doing that with this.
Okay. So far, so good. How many times do you think he said resources in that intro?
Was that 3?
3 or 4. I think
3
he
or
started
4?
with one of them.
Okay.
And I always suck at doing this, so I'm going to do it now. This is from Radio Boston, our own Tiziana Daring, who I steal from a lot, so thank you, Tiziana. Okay, so
You should come on the show.
Oh, that would be awesome. That'd be awesome. Or have us on your show.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, too. So this is Steve Poftak, current general manager of the MBTA. He just mentioned very clearly that they need more resources for safety. And the reason they were highlighting safety is this comes out of this big report that got published probably 2 weeks ago at this point. It was commissioned by Charlie Baker, and what they found was the MBTA has a safety problem.
Simple.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Because the MBTA
is
since they don't have more resources, what they've been doing, and he's going to get to it to another clip, is spending more resources towards what's called capital improvements and not enough resources on safety. So the reason he keeps saying safety is to try to put in people's minds, no, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. But as he just laid out, but we do need more resources. So now Tiziana, who does do, I'll say, a good, okay job for most of her interviews. Now she presses him. We're not just going to say resources anymore. We're going to say money. Just to be very clear to everyone, when we say resources, we mean money.
Don't mean bushels of wood.
So, yep. So,
we don't mean
clip number 2,
pylons.
Let's see how he responds when just very directly asked about the money.
Lay people's terms. what money's supposed to be coming from what kinds of sources over the next couple years? And do you have the right amount of money in each of the types of money that you need? So money for day-to-day versus money to buy new things versus money to work on safety. Where is it coming from? What's supposed to be coming? And do you have the right stuff in the right places?
I believe we do right now. We have, we have over $9 billion available to us to spend on capital over the next 5 years.
And when you say capital, specifically, what do you mean?
It is things other than operating. So building new stations, buying new cars, putting in track, that type of work. We have and that's a mixture of state funds and federal funds and some of the T's own bond money. Our challenge on the capital side really is, can we spend that amount of money? First of all, because we are very aggressively building an organization that can kind of project manage that level of spending. And the other thing, as we're seeing, is it's disruptive. We're going
Say
from
some more about that.
In FY11, the T spent $400 million. In FY19, the T spent $1 billion.
Okay.
In FY20, we believe we will spend something close to $1.4 billion. So we're essentially taking the amount of money we spent in FY11, and that's going to be the difference between FY19 and FY20. That is just such a significantly higher level of activity that in order to do it, we have to do things like we've done diversion work on the core of the system, on the orange line and the red line over the fall.
So that's when people get on shuttle buses rather than on the train tracks, because you've got to be on the tracks.
Because we've got to be on the tracks. And we know it's inconvenient. We appreciate our customers' patience, but we're also able to get a lot more work done and really pull in projects that would have taken on an overnight, that potentially would have taken.
Okay, first, he said the word customers, and I'm going to get to that at a different segment. But what he just explained, he then just switched it. Because when deliberately asked about the money, he said, I don't know, we have enough money. We're good. Which, as I said before, everyone knows the MBTA needs more money.
Right.
Everyone acknowledges this is a funding issue, and now the amount is how much.
The operating side.
And so this is when you get to reveal what this guy's job really is. I found it funny listening to this interview where he was very clear, we need more resources.
Right.
And then he switched it to, oh, no, we have enough money, we're okay.
What else is resources?
Yes. And so that leads me to believe one of two things. One, he got a text during this interview that said, stop saying we need more money. Say you're fine. Or the second thing, which is kind of like what happens to Trump sometimes, which is he very clearly, someone 10 minutes ago just spoke to him about this topic. And so he has like some nouns in his head. And so now he's going to try to speak through it. So it's possible that Steve, he's like, oh yeah, resources. Wait, like, should I mention resources and not mention it? Oh no, I should mention it, right? Okay. And he mentioned it, and then he remembered, oh wait, crap, I can't say it.
I can relate to that.
Because ultimately, this is what this guy's job is. His job, and the reason I think there's been 8 general managers in the past 10 years, or like 7 general managers in the past 7 years, his job is to go out there and say, we don't need any more money. Everything's fine. We just need somebody who's going to come in here and just do some can-do spirit, and that's all we need.
So it's like bad PR, basically.
Basically, the role of this is to be a shield, so that Charlie Baker, politicians, can then say, oh, you know what? We're going to fire that person, and we're going to get someone in here who can make this operation run right. And this is whenever you hear any element about, oh, we got to fix the culture. Oh, they have a management problem. Those state employees keeping their feet up. That is 100% a distraction to say, please God, don't have us raise taxes on wealthy people.
Right.
And so his entire job is to now kind of look like an idiot after saying, oh, we need more resources for safety. We need more resources for safety, to then say, oh, you meant money? Oh, no, we don't need any money. We're fine. Herm, hit us with number 3.
On the operating side, the T has the money it needs to operate the system as it is now. There's a number of things sort of coming down the road in the longer term. There's I would say, a very aggressive commuter rail vision idea that there's going to be a longer term funding conversation around that. So I think there's a conversation to be had down the road, but we have the revenue we need to run the system as it is now in the FY20 budget cycle. We're just in the process of developing the FY21 budget, and that's something we'll re-examine.
Okay, as it is now, is anyone listening happy with how as it is now.
You mean on fire?
Yes. I mean on fire. There was a commuter rail derailment 2 days ago.
Random derailment.
Yep. The MBTA just released like their most reliable, unreliable lines. They all suck.
Guess which one is the winner?
I was going to say, you know what it is. Austin
Green
Brighton
line.
Green Line. So, and again, I'm waiting to the end to tell you how much this person gets paid from our tax dollars to do this job. Because his entire job is to say, everything's fine. We don't need any more money. Oh, no, we have enough money to run it as it is now. Oh, yeah, that's not what the conversation is. Nobody likes how it is right now.
Right.
That's the problem, is that we need to improve it. We could say, oh, we could just have a shitty public transportation system. That won't cost us that much. Yeah, of course it will.
Thing is, it can get real shitty before people stop using it.
And you saw an optic, when they raised fares, what was that, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, there was a drop.
Yeah.
Because it was so unreliable.
Yeah.
And you've now raised fares, so it's just like, F you.
Yeah.
We're not going to take it. And
especially if it's something that I can lift to in quicker time, I would rather spend the money on a more reliable thing than riding the T for an hour that might catch on fire.
Yes. And again, his job is just to say, everything's fine. Which is why when I first started listening to this interview and he kept saying, oh no, we need more resources, I was just like, oh my God. All right, good for you, man. Doing something different. No. Herb, hit us with that final clip.
It's cold. We've had our first storm. There have been some troubles on the red, the green, and the orange line in the last couple of weeks. The report on Monday says both the T is safe and there's a safety culture problem at the T. What do you want to tell listeners who are like, am I safe? Is the train going to be there for me tomorrow? Do you have what you need? And if not, what do we need to give you? And do you understand that this is hard for me? What do you say?
I want to express my appreciation to all our customers. I want to assure them that the MBTA is safe. I take the MBTA every day. Members of my family take the MBTA every day. That said, this report has some very sobering conclusions, and we are committed as an organization to addressing them. We are putting the resources in place to address them. It is not a resource issue. And we are also committed to addressing and improving the safety culture here at the MBTA.
He effing said resources 4 times in the first question.
And they're not, resources is not the same thing as money now.
Apparently not.
So what are resources?
Apparently it's like Lego pieces.
Yeah.
And Lauren looked at me when he said it again, customers.
Yeah.
Because this is, I think, now the 3rd individual we found. They took 1 macroeconomics class. Maybe he has like MBA, Master's of Business degree. And it just...
look at you just shitting on those MBAs over there.
Oh, they suck. If anyone's listening, don't get a Master's of Business. It's called, because you don't learn any tangible skills. Like, it's called a network degree.
Right.
So, like, if you go to that school, so then you can, like, talk to kids. It's like, oh, your uncle's rich, Tool? Like, Tool? Cool, let's start a business together.
Oh.
So, like, you don't learn how to run a business. You just learn how to build connections to people that have wealth. So then maybe you can get that person's aunt to fund you.
Right.
That's all an MBA is for. Don't get an MBA. And as this person kind of illustrates, the function of the MBTA, the function of public transportation, is not to make money. When you view people as customers, then what you're saying is this is a financial transaction. And we are going to give you a service and you're going to pay for it. You are a customer. This is a market. This is what we've talked about. And this is how this person views this. And that's really not what it is. Public transportation is the function of improving the welfare of the public, meaning it's not the goal of the MBTA to make money. And so when you put people in these positions who their entire worldview is based around, no, there are consumers and there are clients. We're here fulfilling the service. They're going to pay X amount for the service. This is what this is. They completely lose sight of what is the function of public transportation.
It's public good.
Yes. It is not there for profit. This is not a consumer relationship whatsoever. So there is zero reason outside of our Neolithic bullshit climate that if somebody ever used that language in an interview with me, I would say, oh, you fundamentally don't understand what your job is.
Yeah, right.
Because that is not your job. Your job is not here to make money. Your here is to improve public transportation.
Right.
How much do you think this guy gets paid from our tax dollars? To do this job, to go out there and say everything's fine. You know what, man? We're just gonna have that can-do attitude.
In Boston, this is a 6-figure salary.
I would pick a number.
Oh shit.
115.
115. Herb, give us a number.
115-1.
Wow.
Oh,
Ballsy choice.
you
there.
are not even half of what this
Are you
person
serious?
makes.
Shit.
The salary for the general manager of the MBTA is $315,000. And it is this person's job to go on interviews and tell you everything is fine, everything is okay, we don't need any more money, we can run this system as is.
Well,
This asshat.
everybody has their price, and
He's getting overpaid.
I know.
To go out there and say, oh man, you know what? We're going to go on a spirit retreat in the weekend. We're going to get to know each other.
Wait, what?
I
They
don't-
do that?
Yeah, they do spirit retreats. You never done community building in your jobs?
We have potlucks and
Yep.
parties with the Yankees.
This guy started Potluck Fridays,
Yeah.
and they're just like, that's worth $300,000.
Yo,
of our money.
MBTA, hit me up. I'll do this job for $300,000.
To say everything's fine, and the other thing they tell you is you have to take public transportation.
That's nice.
So
work.
that way you can be able to say, my family takes public as
Well, I'll just
transportation.
live on one of those new luxury condos
Yeah.
right next to a T station, and nice work if you can get it, I guess.
And that's how I want to close up this year. Is the third, I love the phrase asshat, who took one semester of a class and is just there to either lie, because you have to be lying right now to say you don't need any more money to improve the MBTA.
No, the T needs so much money.
It's not a disputable concept.
No.
Right now,
And I really wish they'd stop putting it on the backs of the workers with this whole culture bullshit. Because you know what? I take the T, and like honestly, the people that work on it are like that I see are kind of the least of my like worries.
The entire
They're great.
lie of like public employees are more they're less efficient than
Absolutely
private
not.
employees because their jobs have more protection and guarantees is 100% bullshit.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's
There
bullshit.
is every single study which has ever been done about a public employees versus private is not the difference.
No.
There is no productivity level. It is people trying to use market language to squeeze as much out to justify not funding things to their appropriate level. That is what it is. It
Yeah.
is this person's job to go out there and say, we're fine.
Yeah.
Oh, really? 30 reports just came out in the last 3 weeks, including from the business community,
you know what?
saying we need billions of
And
more
you know what?
dollars.
It's honestly not like you see stories about trains catching on fire, derailings. You don't really see stories about MBTA employees, like, conductors and people on the trains, like, doing anything wrong.
It is incredibly
Like, compared
rarely.
to, like, it's actually, like, tons of equipment failure.
Yeah.
And they're doing the best they can.
It is
with what they
rare to be
got.
human error. Human error, like, absolutely happens.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every public employee is great. Again,
Right.
go look at the state police right now. Their public employees, like, you want to say that they're doing a great job? Absolutely not. I'm not saying every MBTA worker is doing an incredible job. Of course, you have people who slack off.
Right.
There are people who slack off in private employment, too. It is complete BS to try to say that there's a distinction between the two. The entire point of that argument is to get you to say, you're right, we don't need to raise taxes on wealthy people. Everything's fine.
Just make a gas tax instead.
Yeah, let's just do a gas tax. Yeah, we're gonna talk more about TCI. We have so much great content coming for 2020.
Oh, 2020.
2020 is gonna be awesome.
2020 is going to be our big year.
It is.
We're just getting started.
Yep. See, I got to use the line all of 2019, doing like a lot of the political work that I do. Is 2019 is all a warm up for 2020. Now we actually have to deliver some big things in 2020.
Okay. We'll get there.
Oh, and so much stuff happened the last 2 weeks. Very quickly, property value in Boston is $168 billion. We should tax it more. We actually did pass a spending bill. The reason of the hang up was they were trying to cut corporate taxes. Minimum wage is slightly increasing in Massachusetts because it'll eventually.
And everyone's complaining for no reason about it.
Yes, and minimum wage only helps local economies. That's too much for me to go into right now. Just minimum wage helps local
And it's
economies.
still not enough.
And the tax rate is dropping. Again, at a time when we need to raise more revenue. If you make $60,000 a year, congratulations, you get, I think it's an extra $3 a month. So,
well,
the reason for this drop, all the people who make the money already are in the millions. They're the ones who actually get to rake this in, but now it goes to 5%, the state income tax.
Wait, but that doesn't really help me because I don't make $60K.
No, again, if you're listening to this podcast, you'll get maybe $10 extra a year. Millionaires and billionaires who live in Massachusetts are going to get to pocket a lot more. That's the money that we actually need to fix the MBTA. So I don't have to listen to Steve a year from now. Say everything's fine. We're good. We need more resources. Oh, you need more money? Oh, no, not money. No.
We don't need money.
I swear somebody texted him during that. Or
yeah, that was pretty weird. I don't know what else resources means.
Oh, and I take too much from Tiziana. Miss Deering. But it just love to press on that. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't you just say resources? Can you explain to our viewers what you meant by resources?
Bushels of wood.
Yeah, just hay barrels.
Yeah, just
dumbasses. But no, 2020 is gonna be a great year. Did you want to do New Year's resolutions?
You mean New Year's revolutions?
Oh. So I always end the year. So people who get to hang out with me tomorrow, I'll be like, what was your best and worst moments of 2019? That's always my thing. I'm having a hard time thinking of New Year's revolutions, except until when you phrase it like that. Because now it's actually not about my individual changes, which is normally New Year's resolution. It's I'm going to go to the gym more, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, no, that's bullshit.
So that got me thinking a lot more politically, which excites me a lot more.
Yeah.
I haven't brought her up yet. I'm close with somebody running for what was Kennedy's seat.
Ooh.
It would be great if Assam Lekki can get elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. We'll probably have her on at some point.
We will have her on because
she's amazing.
She's a DSA
member. I think that might be the big win. There's definitely
that's very specific.
It is. And also run along with that, Anna Callahan, another personal friend of mine, DSA member who's running for the state.
Can we have her on too?
Absolutely. And she also has a podcast.
Oh, we can do some cross-podcast crossover.
We can cross-pod.
Crosspod.
I would love for her to win a seat, getting some more people who are willing to actually fight, again, using the office as a function of organizing, not using the office in and of itself. So that's mine. You two, what do you got?
New Year's resolutions? Nada. I let things happen naturally. If I'm going to go to the gym, it's just going to happen.
You can't improve on perfection. What are we going to do to get better?
Yeah,
you tell me to read more? No.
No. They're not bad ideas. None of those things are bad ideas. Maybe stop yelling into the mic so loud. That'd be a good New Year's resolution.
Right,
yeah. But New Year's revolutions, rent control. Can we do it this year?
Structurally, no.
Okay.
Well, I mean, technically, yes. If it passed the Mass House and then passed the Mass Senate.
Which isn't going to happen this year?
No.
Okay.
Maybe, but no.
Well, okay.
Possibly.
What about tenants protection? Right to counsel?
I don't know. I'm too skeptical of right now anything.
You don't think anything housing is going to happen?
I think if it does happen, it'll be the things that we don't like.
Okay, maybe you're right, but I'm going to try anyway.
But I think this is going to be housing is the first, second, and third issue in Boston.
Yeah. As
if you're listening to Renters Radio, you know. So this is what will be the 2020 races, state races, will be framed around housing. It just will. And so the more that the left has a unified position of this is what it means to have a left policy in 2020 in Massachusetts. It means you are for rent control. It means you are for just cause evictions or protection of just cause evictions. If that is the mantle that's held, we will get people to sign on to that. We will get more than just 2 or maybe 5 House reps that sign on to it.
Well, thanks for breaking my heart. I don't have any more revolutions.
These things take time. Things take time.
Okay, well, you know what? We here at Renters Radio are happy to continue the fight to make that happen faster than Evan expects. That would be great.
That would be awesome.
What's your New Year's revolution?
I think I'm gonna try to aim to brush my teeth twice a day.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Twice a day.
Herb.
Don't pass out before doing it.
You know,
it's tough.
Yeah, I mean that's. I'm just gonna start there.
So I don't want to, plug somebody who's not a sponsor. Want to change your life right now? Quip.
Quip.
The
Quip?
The electric toothbrushes you can get. $15. They'll mail it to your house every 3 months for $5. They mail you a new little head. It's on a 2-minute timer with little pulses. Quip, can you sponsor us? I would feel weird, like, being the co-chair of Boston DSA.
Vermin Supreme would be happy because toothbrushing is mandatory under Vermin Supreme's platform.
That's right.
So,
that's correct.
as Rob just reminded me, it's important. So I feel like if we got a sponsorship from Quip, I'd be down to try this contraption out. Whatever.
Now brought to you
if I don't pass out first.
No, it's great.
Quip.
Second big toothbrush thing I've changed in my life, and I don't know how hygienic this is. Brush your teeth in the shower.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, my shower is so not hygienic.
See, I just figured that out, though. It's so awesome. Because now you get the nice hot water on you. You're not looking that weird, like...
It depends on your shower.
I
don't even keep my toothbrush in my bathroom.
Oh, that's bad.
That's how bad my bathroom is.
Okay, but...
I'm, like, banging on toilets.
Herb, I'm going to get you a Quip. I know roughly where you live. Just Herb in Dorchester.
Just a quick drop in his mailbox.
Yeah, you'll find him. I'm telling you, man. Everyone out there, get a Quip.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Small D's.
What's your revolution, though, Herb?
I'm gonna revolt against tooth decay.
Okay.
God damn it! I'm on a theme here.
No, I have a good one. What about building up this as a radio station?
This is built as a radio station.
I know, but what if,
you have to pick a name.
Yeah, like the actual station, and we have like a streaming channel 24/7 and a lot of different shows that are being produced here. We have a few now.
Yeah, but that's like I don't need the change of the year to have that goal in mind. I mean,
I know that's why revolutions are dumb, but revolutions are fun.
Yes, all right, yes, we'll have this place broadcasting by mid-2020.
All right, 2020 is the big year.
Yeah, it is. It's a big year, dude.
2020, we will be fully funded by Patreon donors.
Yes, shout out
to Zach. Thank you.
And Rob.
And Rob.
As I went on the Patreon, I realized that you are a Patreon member. Really appreciate it, bud.
And
that's
Evan,
awesome.
Patreon donating from a card that doesn't work.
Yes. I gave my own Patreon.
A ghost Patreon.
An expired credit card because I just wanted to see what would happen. But so we right now have so if you go to our Patreon page, it says very clearly as our first goal is to have 10 people they can't be related to us. So
yeah, that's why my family doesn't donate to our Patreon yet.
Because I made that goal specific. I want 10 people that not related to us to help support it, and then you get to have a personal like online Skype call with us.
You can even be a guest on the show for that Skype if you want. Hell, we'll up the ante here. We can make it a call-in session. We can be our guest, the patron.
And then maybe that episode. Oh no, to plug it to make people want to do it. We will make it public for everyone.
Oh yeah, the paywall stuff is confusing. So yeah, our Patreon is like patreon.com/rentersradio. One of my goals this year is to get a better logo. So if anybody out there knows anything about like design or like logo design, just hit me up. Help. I made this on the fly with some pretty basic tools, and I have no artistic ability. So logo designers, that's one of my goals this year, is to really spruce that up a little. And also just ramp things up, more consistency, more guests. I have a whole list of guests we want to get to this year, so I'm excited for that.
Very quickly, even though I know we're winding down and we're just we're having fun. 2 strike updates. One, the Harvard Graduate Student Union. The strike is not technically over, but they have agreed to resume work basically after the new year. There are 3 major things that they were pushing for, which was the health benefits, pay raise, and third-party arbitration, have not been met yet. Some other demands it seems like they've negotiated with. I guess a federal mediator was brought in, and they're having talks again on January 7th. So everyone stay tuned for that. Please keep supporting them. But it seems like after the new year, they will be regaining work. That doesn't mean that they won't pick up the strikes again if their conditions aren't met. So that was one. Second strike that we've been highlighting with the Weymouth Compression Station. The Mass Teachers Association, the MTA, which is a large union of teachers in Massachusetts, they have been supporting them. So they actually went out to one of the protests, which is great. I think during a segment I talked about how this is going to be around schools. As everyone knows from like the West Virginia teacher strikes and the teacher strikes across the country, teachers have incredible political clout in terms of the movements they get behind. I don't think like the teachers aren't striking right now to stop it.
Right, but they're still showing their support.
And I think the teachers signaling that will then make the parents more aware of this
Right.
issue, because again, this is going to be a compression station, which even from the company's own records say will have negative health effects for the people of Weymouth, and this energy again is not being used, but in Massachusetts it is being pushed so that this energy can be consumed elsewhere, I think in Canada. So
Yeah.
those are your 2 strike updates.
Yeah, and you know what? It's really good to see it. The Weymouth compressor fight is still going on. I see every day there's like new people out there supporting them. There's still people at those picket lines or at those blockades. People getting arrested almost every day. So if we'll do it. We'll actually should probably do a show to update on that at some point.
Yeah,
Have Nathan back on or somebody from there to kind of give an update on what the progress on that is, as well as the Harvard student strike. Have you been out there yet?
I have not,
I have.
unfortunately.
We're bad activists.
I live in Dorchester.
It's been like every day I was gonna go, it was like snowing or something happened. I don't know. I keep making excuses. Hopefully they get what they want.
Yes, let's see. And
What
again,
else?
the strike isn't officially over, so
Yeah. We don't have a timeline for it yet.
no. But they will be resuming work after the new year.
Okay.
Um,
Fair enough. What do we got? Any events to plug?
Yes, actually.
There you go.
Even though I didn't want to start thinking about the future until after New Year's,
Which is tomorrow.
which is tomorrow, I couldn't help but look at my calendar. January 5th, this Saturday, I am going to start my Bernie work. Luckily, there's been some great DSA members who have really picked up the torch to try to promote Bernie Sanders here in Massachusetts. We run, we're basically like the only operation in Boston right now if you want to do canvassing for Bernie, because the Bernie campaign is being very strategic. It doesn't make sense for them to highlight Massachusetts. But if you want to come canvass for Bernie, knocking doors, I will be at 100 Washington Street in Dorchester at 1 p.m. January 5th, knocking doors for Bernie in Dorchester. And also, if you would just hop on the Boston DSA page, again, I think we do 3 or 4 different canvassing events every like that weekend. So you go to Austin, Brighton. I think we have something Somerville, but then also we have our own dialer. We have our own calling, so you can also dial with DSA.
Dial with DSA. That sounds cool.
Hey, Evan, did you know, by the way, also on February 1st, over at Deep Thoughts, they're having another Bernie show.
I did not.
Yeah, dude, our friends over at Deep Thought are having a Bernie support show,
Oh.
whatever you want to call them, man. And it's going to be cool. It's going to be Bernie based. And if you're in JP, February 1st, and you like Deep Thoughts, and you like music, and you like Bernie, you should stop by.
Absolutely. We had a good time at the last one.
Oh yeah, that
That was fun. I also didn't really think about the new year until I guess after New Year's. So I don't have any events to plug. Actually, there are a few things there. I believe on January 10th there is a Chuck Turner memory memorial. But I don't know where it is. But I definitely marked myself interested. Oh, I have to sneeze.
Let's see.
I'm so done. Okay. Ugh. I'm falling apart here. I really just need this new year to happen so I can feel different.
I just mentally can't get past the block yet. So like once New Year's is done, then my brain will kick on.
Every year I feel that way, and every year the ball drops and the clock strikes midnight, and I'm just like looking around like I don't feel any different.
So January 10th, celebrating the
There you
life
go.
and legacy of Chuck Turner at the First Church in Roxbury at 10 a.m. I'll say that again. January 10th, 10 a.m. Friday, First Church in Roxbury. Just type in Chuck Turner on Facebook, go to events, and you'll find it. We can actually post it just on the Renters Radio Facebook page because I keep forgetting we have that power.
Yeah, we need to do that. We need to do
So
that.
I'm doing that now.
Thank you.
If you can.
You
make
have
it
more
okay.
power than me on it too, which is like kind of weird. I haven't figured out how to fix that yet. He can like share things that I can't. It's weird.
Bam. Okay, it's
All right,
on there
thank you,
right now.
Evan.
Also, go check out our new cover photo because it looks really cool.
Oh yeah, you like that one?
Yes, I think that captures At least my personality pretty good.
He's got his hand entirely.
I'm me with my eyes shut.
I'm like just there looking at my computer as always. And we got Rebecca Lee Nave Jr.'s head.
You know, it looks like I'm interrupting Lee, which definitely did not happen in the photo. So if anyone just crops that and says like Evan mansplains to Lee, no, though, is not what happening.
Explanation. Let me explain this.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Yeah.
That is not what happened.
No, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. That's how you always start a mansplaining session.
It's adorable you think that, but actually,
Oh.
I get
the hair on the back of my neck just went up.
I know. I get yelled at for mansplaining, but I do it to everyone.
Right, you don't discriminate in your mansplaining.
No.
Okay.
And generally, this is a show where you listen to me talk. So you, the listener right now, can't get mad at me.
No one's mad at you. It's okay.
No, I'm bitching to Leah.
Okay.
But
no one's mad at
again,
you.
in public, normally I use a different tone.
No, you don't.
Maybe when I'm talking to you, because I think I'm on the show when I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good point.
We go to Cats, we think we're on the air, just like, yeah. Let's
People
talk
in the theater are telling us to shut up.
socio-political significance of this.
Like, that's a great point, Lauren.
We were so loud.
I think I leaned over. I'm just like, Lauren, you're screaming right now.
I always scream, like, all the time. So another thing, Call to Arts monthly meetup, January 8th, 7 p.m. Be here if you are interested in supporting the local artist community and helping be part of things like this and keeping the dream alive for artists in Boston and Cambridge and Somerville. And yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, take care. Looking forward to 2020. We will not be live next Monday. Herb is going to D.C. just to own the town.
Herb's abandoning us.
Yeah, I'm going out there to work Super Megafest.
Super Magfest.
It's going to be fun.
Yep. So we will not have a live show for that. But we did live shows throughout the Christmas holiday season, so we can take a week off. We might release an audio to the podcast listeners for that day, but we'll see if we end up doing that.
Yeah, I do need to post the special EMF Miss episode on our podcasting stuff, so watch out for that. We will be posting this episode on, iTunes, Spotify, whatever.
But we'll be back in the new year.
Yeah, we'll be back in the new year. Extra strong, extra renters,
keeping those
extra radio.
Taxes sexy.
Yeah, coming for your landlord. Watch out, 2020.
There we go. But all right, everyone.
All right, we're signing off. Happy New Year.
Happy New
decade.
Year. Be safe. Have fun. Make bad choices.
And have fun doing it.